Hey everybody, this is Silverspook, and this is the Silverspook video on Steampunk and Solarpunk Suppression by the Saboteurious jealousy of the Europe. Anyways, this is a video that will be focusing on the topics of past and present attempts to as they say, Tanya Harding or kneecap the competition, and how the current U.S. attempts to stifle the progress that we are making technologically, socially, environmentally, and economically, and in a mutually beneficial, cooperative way across the planet. This progress that is currently being prevented and is currently having its heyday. It's having its parade rained on, or at least the U.S. is trying to rain on that parade, and that actually directly echoes a historical time period which I like and appreciate, not just because I'm a fan of Arcanum of Steamworks and Magica Obscura, a steampunk CRPG by Troika Games from the 1990s, early 2000s, but and of course the Difference Engine by William Gibson and that other guy and Bruce Sterling. And of course, as an adjacent genre to the cyberpunk genre, which I tend to be in, I've always been fascinated. It's not been my main genre, but I've always been fascinated with steampunk, and I watch a lot of steampunk shows, and never got to really dress up. It can actually be pretty expensive to actually dress up in steampunk because of the amount of gadgets and doohickeys that you need to competently pull it off. But it is the time period of the 1800s, which is what it focuses on. For those who don't know what that is, as an aesthetic, as a literary genre, it focuses on but it was a very tumultuous time, the 1800s. Now it was extremely not just tumultuous, but very bad, very horrific time for obviously much of the non-European world. And you can, there's many people have discussed that at length. But it was also a time for great discoveries, great inventions, great technological progress. Right, the electric filament, it's the steampunk aesthetic, and the steampunk genre is filled with the flourishes and the wonder and excitement of newly discovering what now is mundane technology, right? Like the electric light. Part of this, the reason why I'm doing this, I'm actually playing through that Arcanum video game. So I'm thinking about that a lot. The electric filament, the capacitor, by combining the capacitor and a brass ring, one can electrify one's hands and increase the dexterity and acumen of scimitar and saber usage. No, I mean that's a video game RPG invention, but the invention of electricity, right? Frankenstein is a 1800s Victorian era novel that investigates the fears, right, that could come about from these new inventions, and also the sciences of biology delving into the human body, right? And what if we combine electricity with our new medical science? What horrors could that cause, right? The modern day Prometheus talks about the misuses of these new technologies being invented, possibly creating perpetually undead, doomed monsters, and their horrible very duplicitous and hubristic inventors like Dr. Frankenstein. But the time, it was a time of great invention, and the difference engine center is a story that centers upon the early, with this amazing new, multiple room sized, contraption of brass cylinders and punch card devices, and we have these new springs that we can forge in our industrious factories, and we have all of these lenses and these various readers and gadgets that are newly invented, right? And then we can now calculate the sum of 2,341 and 1,826 in a matter of in the blink of an eye. The difference engine, or it can calculate the difference thereof, right? And like Lady Ada was one of the original women programmers, and actually women led a lot of this invention and technological advancement. A lot of that has been buried for obvious reasons. But it was a time in which there was a lot of hope that possibly, like, even Marxism itself, right, came about during this time when people were thinking about the potential economic changes that we could also undergo while we're going these technological changes, right? Marx himself was a sociologist, studying social relations. So the steampunk era is a very fascinating era, a tragic era for obviously large swaths of the non-Euroid persuasion. But also there were some great successes for non-European peoples, and that's one of the people I'm going to talk about as a native Hawaiian myself at some point in this video. And that's on the left side of the screen there. And sorry, my streaming computer needs to wake up. My streaming computer needs additional semiconductors. I blame the treachery of the Western attempts to ban semiconductors. The U.S. banned the semiconductors from my Dell Latitude laptop, and that is why I cannot access my chat. Okay, so so the Financial Times recently reported, obviously, that the U.S. Was set to impose 100% tariffs on the Chinese electric vehicles imports, and it does mark a move. Marks the latest effort by Biden administration to protect the domestic industry. In case you have not heard about that, this isn't actually. Give me 1 second here. In case you have not heard about that, this is not a new phenomenon. The U.S. has been engaged in a whole cohort, a full court press, trying to think of a steampunk metaphor. The U.S. has been engaged in a vast array, a vast assortment of attempts to stifle and suppress Chinese products and progress generally as well. As the number one enemy of the United States, that's in the words of the U.S.'s great orator, Anthony Blinken, Esquire, the great orator and the great diplomat Anthony Blinken, who succeeded at tanking Qualcomm and Nvidia and Intel and all the U.S. tech companies' stocks across the board with his completely unsuccessful, right, attempts to sanction and tariff and make unsuccessful bluster against China that only actually backfires and shoots the U.S. in the foot. Not to mention the continued prosecution of the U.S.-backed genocidal war you know where. I'm not supposed to say those words. Oops. Because also, right, algorithms, the speaking of difference engines and algorithms themselves, the word algorithm is in fact a non-Western Arabic word, and the attempts to bury where that came from is another attempt to kneecap, to sabotage the non-Western, non-European civilizations and their progresses that they have made historically and present. But the algorithms themselves of YouTube, of Twitch, of all social media companies, Google, what they would like to, what they wish they had TikTok, they do not. Right? The algorithms are another way that the West can attempt to sabotage, again, the steampunk and the solarpunk positive technological, social, economic, and environmental movements towards a better world. If not a utopia, at least a better heterotopia, which is neither a utopia nor a dystopia. Sorry, I was just trying to post something. Okay, there we go. Okay, anyways, but yeah, so the U.S. is set to impose these 100% tariffs. As far as I know, they've already, if it's not already in existence, it is moving in that direction. Let's just look at some of the news on that. I know I saved one of them here. Yeah, so the U.S. is currently raising tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles from 25% to 100% after our billionaire oligarch overlord demanded them. Free trade was always a myth. Economic powers only preach it after. This is from Ben Norton of the Geopolitical Economy Report, I believe. Economic powers only preach it after establishing hegemony. When they lose dominance, they return to protectionism. And Elon Musk also recently Elon Musk recently said in Reuters that Chinese EV firms will demolish rivals without trade barriers. This mirrors. I mean, not just Hawaii. This is also the case of the 1800s. The U.S. is afraid. This is not just Elon, right? This is a full scale, full across the spectrum of oligarchs and unjust, undemocratic, disproportionately caucasoid rulers of the West, like Janet Yellen recently said, China has to be stopped. China's overcapacity needs to be reined in, or it's disastrous. I thought that the West, the United States and its friends, I thought that the Europeans and America and Canada were going to lead the world in environmental sustainability and renewable technology and electric vehicles and so isn't the United States and the West working on building electric vehicles? Didn't Elon Musk say his goal is so that the world will have electric vehicles so that we can reduce the impacts of climate change, right? The goal wasn't to, like, Elon Musk and not just Elon, the West, to talk about this, right? The COP26, right? The green parties of the United States and Europe, right? These environmentalist parties, pro-tech parties, progressives, right? The ALCs. The talk is always about how we are doing this for moral reasons. We're doing this for environmental reasons. We want to save the world. We want to save the planet. We want to save the species, right? We want to stop ecocide, right? And so if what you want is to have a more renewable filled, less fossil fuel using future, if you want a solarpunk future like you claim, right, then why would you stop? Well, number one, why aren't you actually acting on that and doing it? China outproduces and outclasses, by magnitudes, all Western countries. They outproduce electric vehicles by number, and also by electric solar panels, wind technology. China outproduces the entirety of the rest of the world, including the U.S. and all of Europe put together by leagues, right? So if you claim to want to do that, why don't you do it? Number two, if the West claims and Elon claims that you are you what you want, because Elon talks about his SpaceX is a project that's about, that's like a space punk future where we'll have a multi-planetary civilization where human cities and human societies exist on multiple planets, giving us a second a plan B, right? We not put all of our human species eggs in a single basket, right? So he claims that that's what he wants to do, right? And so similarly, he claims that what he wants to do, and what the West generally claims what it wants to do, is to increase the renewable technology in the world to make the planet a better place, right? This is what billionaires they generally claim, right? But the thing is, like, when that's actually happening, now number one, they failed. When it actually happens, they actually don't want it, right? Because I would argue actually virtually all of that, right? All of the United States government, all of its the U.S. government, all of its ruling class. I'm sure many citizens of the United States and citizens of Europe would like there to be more renewable technology, right? But the people that actually run the United States, run Europe, run Canada, and these the European places, they do not actually want, and they do not care about renewable technology. They don't care about saving the planet. If they did, they would have already been doing something more concrete and material, but they have done nothing. They're not making it. And so when the country actually starts to make these at scale, right, then the only response is to, or the true motives come to light, right? Which is that we simply want to control the world. We want to, under racist, capitalist, colonialist plutocracy, the wealthiest and the wealthiest descendants of lords and ladies and aristocrats of predominantly Europe, who are also happen to be dynastic and also at the racial apotheosis under our white supremacist ideologies, which we operate in. We only seek to dominate and control everything: economics, politics, technology, right? If we cannot control the most advanced technology, like for example the BYD vehicles, which some people are calling like the greatest Lexus and a cross with the best Honda or Toyota, but then electrified and at the efficiency that's beyond, at an efficiency and at a level of technology that's outclasses everything that any Japanese, American, or German car company has to offer, right? It just completely outclasses all of them, and it's cheaper, right? And so, right, there's no actual moral environmental will. There's only moral and environmental like a steampunk decoration. There's only moral and environmental costuming. There's only a moral environmental set design and wallpaper, right? But under the wallpaper, the real truth of the structure of the West is it's only about domination. It's only about control. It's only about money for a handful of people. And if that includes killing off vast, because if this continues, right, if the suppression of renewable technology continues, if the environment does continue to degrade, this will result in horrible suffering and death of millions of people and billions of people, right? So that what it shows you is that the Western leadership don't care. They're oligarchs, so actually people who actually lead. That's what Ben Norton correctly points that out. They don't care about the citizens at all whatsoever. They have no democratic. There's no democratic system that can rein them in. This is. I've gone in. I have videos just on that. By the words of their own Ivy League institutions, by the studies of their own Ash Institute, Princeton, Harvard, and Yale, they all conclude that there's a 99.5% 99.5% of all policy is not controlled by the masses, is controlled by the elite, by the wealthy 1%, disproportionately white dudes from the United States and Europe. Some of them are not from the United States, but they're just many of them are European. They're French, British billionaires, etc. And they headquarter themselves in the United States, DC. And their think tanks and their lobbying is money is funneled there. But anyway, so they don't care about the population. They don't care about the environment. They don't care about health, and that's why everybody's dying from, potentially H5N1, certainly COVID, and rampant diseases that are currently eating away at the masses, like Malthus, the well-off cited Western economist, Mr. Malthus, who said that the poor were the cause of all problems in the world, the overpopulation, the disease, the wars, the suffering, and all of the problems, the climate, ecological problems, the pollution is caused by the masses, and they should all be killed. The population should be thinned. The herd should be the herd should be decimated by intentionally introducing cholera. Malthus actually said that the medical advancements, speaking of the 1800s, right, the medical advancements made in eliminating diseases and reducing diseases, there was a mistake. We should keep the pox. Malthus actually said we should keep uncontrolled indoor miasmas. So don't clean the air. Do not ventilate the air. Do not clean the water, because we want to we should propagate the spread of rats, because we want the Black Plague to return. He literally said that. And his thinking is always been the elite thinking. The poor cause war. And the reality is the rich use war to thin herds as well, to get rid of masses, right? The evidence, and that is, they don't come out and say that, because that would be very counterproductive to their attempts to wipe out vast quantities of their poors in their Western countries and the Western orbits that they can control, like the United States. They don't just come out and say that, but that's what they're doing. I mean, if you observe their actions rather than listen to their words, that's what they're doing. And so similarly, climate change, catastrophic, Category 7 pyronados, super hurricanes, food losses. These are weapons, to cleanse the earth of the Charles Dickens, speaking of 1800s, Charles Dickens, hungry orphans and these mouths that need to be fed, this annoying mouth, right? So but you can cleanse the mouths from the earth by intentionally wrecking the planet. So actually, I would argue the West don't want, the Western rulers, the people that actually run the United States and Europe, etc., Western, neo-colonial capitalist entities. They don't want renewable technology. They don't want solar panels everywhere. They don't want, if they can make some money from it, some of them are willing to make some money from it, but collectively as a class, they don't want that. They want to liquidate most of the humans. There's too many of them. It's hard to control them. Especially, they don't want moral, empathic, and smart, educated humans around that could jeopardize their power and control. Right? I made a video about this. Specifically. It was called controlled thinning. I have several videos about this topic, but one of them is controlled thinning. The rich don't want you healthy, empowered, or around, right? Because of the problems of the physical earthly limits, the amount of land and space and resources left, right? It's not enough to sustain a capitalist system that is part of their system of control. And so the reduction of the population particularly reduction of educated, empowered individuals that are capable of resisting them, right? If you have serious neurological, neuronal omletification, right? If you have microthrombosis at scale in your brain tissue, right? If your ACE2 receptors are binding with the biosafety level 3 pathogen that is COVID-19 in your brain, among other things, and you have serious brain damage, right? And you're so disabled you can't walk or think, right? Then you cannot participate in any future, right? You can only be institutionalized. You have no, you can't do anything for Palestine or anything, or yourself or the planet or the climate, right? And so you know, and that this is the policy the United States and the West is assuming. They have said nothing on COVID. We just found out this week that the rich have been ventilating. Let me see if I can find that one. I mean, this is we're going a little bit off the topic, but it's important because of it speaks to the desire to suppress a better future, steampunk or solarpunk futures, right? Any kind of positive future has to be crushed and suppressed. An actually anti-racist future, right? An actually equal future, an actually just world has to be suppressed, right? And one of the evidence is that, you know, this is the EVs. Sorry, I got, I have a lot of these. Where did I put that one? That's Palantir. Well, I'm gonna come to all of these in the later on in the Twitch stream, but okay, I think yeah. So the ventilation, yeah, CDC. No, that's not it. Did I spell ventilation wrong? When I did ask better ventilation, yeah. So WHO, CDC, and WHO have been using ventilation. Okay, where the hell was? I can't find it. But basically, long story short, I'm having trouble finding it right now. The United States is trying to ban my bookmark tweets. It's trying to suppress Native Hawaiian speech, and by Native Hawaiian digital streaming education by removing and kneecapping all of my tweets so I can't find them. But basically, what happened is that there was a ventilation of rooms. You know, the cleaning of the air inside of rooms, right, in indoor spaces, has been done since 2020. The WHO and the wealthy have been cleaning their air. They haven't been telling anyone. They've been cleaning their own air and not informing anyone else this entire time. I brought this up. I brought this up many times in these streams, so I won't like belabor that too much. But you know, so you know, I'm gonna make a thread later on, I think, where there's been a big push to you know, block eat the block, like let them eat cake, right? The Met Gala said let them eat cake, and so the 99% was let them eat the block, right? You see there's a new TikTok trend where everyone is assigning celebrities and influencers who are silent for everyone to block each week so they lose their engagement. So we're talking about, you know, Gal Gadot and you know, many Stranger Things stars. There's many Amy Schumer, right? All of these pro-Israeli or anti-Palestinian or have been silent, not even anti, but just like silent on it, to get blocked. They call it the digital guillotine. a great invention to make social and economic progress in the world. Lizzo has suddenly started posting about mutual aid, so it's actually working. But you know, as we know that, and I've talked about in the previous streams on this, focusing on the student protests, right? Masking because, you know, N95, KN95, or even surgical masks, any kind of masks can't prevent a percentage of the aerosolized pathogens in the air from entering your body, right? And so, and in the same way that I just want this for the picture. So in the same way, like I talked about last week, the students are rising up, and they're virtually like most of them that are, especially the core organizers, right, are massed at these college, free the watermelon place. I would like people to actually see this video. That's why I'm saying that. Free the watermelon place. They're actually wearing masks as well as doing their actions, right? And so, and in the same way that celebrities are being called out for their lack of support, because celebrities are weapons, right? They are mass planetary influence weapons, tools of the ruling class. When it comes to the colonial capitalist Western world, so Gal Gadot, this is how they sell products. This is how they sell wars, right? Or silence dissent, right? Every time there's about to be a Democratic election, they bring out the Beyonce, they try to bring out the P Diddy, they bring out the Jay-Z, they bring out the biggest stars, right? They bring out the Obama. They just brought out the Mark Hamill to try to like distract people from what was happening in Rafah, right? They bring out the celebrities, right? In order to focus people's eyes away from something, or to have the celebrities to make people move in a pro something or against something, right? And so, or to vote for someone, right? By having huge rallies, usually it's Democratic Party rallies, and they'll have all these mega singers and Hollywood stars come out, because it tends to be Democrats that control Hollywood, and they will bring huge amounts of eyes, and then simultaneously getting people to sign up to vote, blah 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 blah. So the celebrities are complicit in all of this. They are 100%. And so similarly, in the same way that the celebrities that are not talking about freeing watermelon place, and now they're getting called out for it, and they're all getting blocked. Like Kim Kardashian lost 3 million. Kim Kardashian lost 3 million followers in one single day, right? Because of this. So it is making a big dent. In the same way that the student actions are making a big dent by the words of Netanyahu himself, right? They are even saying even the CEO of Palantir, which is a U.S. based planetary military intelligence complex, huge corporation, one of the richest, oldest, one of the richest, most kind of central nasty billionaires, and friend of Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, is directly involved in that as well. And he was saying that he's very worried about if he's. I think the words of the Palantir executive were, if we lose the intellectual battle, the West will never be able to deploy an army anywhere. So that's awesome. So we should all push for the West to lose that intellectual battle. Because what do they do with their armies everywhere? If they cannot economically, if they cannot sanction war, if they cannot Cold War, right? If they cannot sanction war, tariff war, soft power war, hybrid war, psyop war, narrative war you away, then they will send in the military like they did in Hawaii. If they cannot stop progress, social, economic, technological, environmental, real progress in the world, right? Like they did in Hawaii, they will send in their military. If they cannot stop it in a way that involves embargoes, sanctions, economic treachery, then they will directly militarily invade. So and that's always the final resort, right? That's what they've been. That's what the bases. That's what the 800 military bases in most countries on the earth are for. And so, but if the U.S., if all of the online and offline actions, right, at the student protests, all the other protests, there's a cyber war going on between, as I talked about, the hacktivists and other digital cyber armies that are going back, hitting NYPD, hitting LAPD, hitting genocidal involved corporations and governments even, and so, but there's also the intellectual struggle, right? Is to maintain the justification for things like the ISRAEL place and the U.S. involvement therein, right? And the legitimacy of the United States, right? That's actually I talked about this before. Like if it's a lot of this is informational, it's educational, it's narrative. It goes on in the minds of the people, right? And so when the senior executive of one of the most central, ruling class entities, Palantir, says we won't be able to deploy our militaries to maintain our planetary domination if we lose the intellectual battle. That means that you should keep fighting the intellectual battle. You should keep fighting TikTok. You could keep fighting to reduce the reach of the weaponized, very popular eyeball honeypots. That's what celebrities are, really. Eyeball and earhole honeypots. Eyeball and earhole Pied Pipers. That's what they are. It's to lead you off a cliff, like so many lemmings, right? Into war, into the continued suppression of the future by getting you involved in, not supporting the end of the U.S. most important international U.S. military mega base, that is ISRAEL, on top of the peoples whose flag is the watermelon. So, but long story short, so that's how we know that what we're doing is working. Sorry. Okay. Anyways, so so, but so what I missed the point that I wanted to make, but if we know that this is working, and we know that the PALESTINE place is very important, right? And many people around the world, I would say the majority of people around the world are saying we need that now, right? Then similarly, there should be action, right? There should be a digital guillotine for celebrities who have been silent on the COVID pandem something, because movie stars and actors have been going to sets. Musicians have known this, right? Adele has like $500,000 worth of technology that cleans her air for her, right? I talked about this in several of the medical virus centered streams. And so if the wealthy celebrities and movie stars, they have extremely strict protocol on Hollywood sets, right, where everybody is masked all the time. Everyone is tested constantly, right? They have very strict policies on the sets. Because why? Because they know that it's a problem. Like the WHO, the CDC, and all the ruling class, government and business elite all know it's a huge problem. That's why they clean their air. They clean their child's air. There's UV protection for all of their children. They all have had ventilation, high quality ventilation for the last 4 years, right? While everyone else has been getting extremely sick with the mild cold that they keep calling it. The students are rising up, and they're saying, yes, we also need to protect from the ongoing pandemic something. And so they should call for any celebrity that has been showing up to their sets, right, playing on stage, right, and hasn't said anything about the dangers of the COVID, right, and the need to mask. And everyone who has been I gotta come up with better like anti-Western speech suppression words for that, but I haven't thought of one. People say grape for the really bad sexual activity, right? If anybody knows what those words are, DM me later so I can say those words instead of like spelling out all the words I want to say. Anyways, so every celebrity, Hollywood musician who hasn't spoken up about the COVID should also be digitally guillotined with a TikTok. I mean, I'm not calling for. I mean, to be clear, that's not a call to violence. That is a call to add them to the list of massive blocks because of their complicity in and also genocide through medical malfeasance and medical hiding of the information, because they have access to that. They know this. They all know this because they're all out. They all mandated to follow very strict, virus limiting precautions, including masking on their sets. They have filtration at their music shows, and so every celebrity that isn't, they should all be digitally mask blocked. You know, I mean, that's just a suggestion, because it was like, why aren't more people speaking out on this? Why aren't more celebrities? Why aren't more public figures? Right? Why isn't well-known person X speaking up on either the PALESTINE issue, or on the panda something issue, the pandas, on the pandas issue, one answer is that you can use the digital mass influence action of mass blocking. Like, I mean, that's just a thought. I'm gonna probably make a thread about that later. Anyways, okay, so let's come back to the main point though, because I'm a little bit off of it. U.S. set to impose 100% tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. Okay, so now let's look a little bit more into those electric vehicles. I did have a bookmark on that. Okay, so and I know I just made that one. Yeah, here. So yet another Chinese EV plus Huawei tie-up. Cherry Luxy S7 looks like it's a Lucid Air and a Mercedes-Benz EQE sedan had a baby. So like these cars are like top of the line. They're way cheaper than any European or American or Japanese car, and they outperform all of them. This is like the inside of just one of them. Some of the Chinese cars go for as low as like $5,000, $3,000. I mean, a good one is like going to be 20 something, but it's still way cheaper than the American cars are going for like near 100 or more thousand a lot of the time. Or in the high tens of thousands. This guy has like several videos on this actually. He was like walking around a bunch of just to get a sense of like what kind of cars they had. And there were several Americans, there was Americans that were showing the Chinese cars, and all of a sudden everybody got worried and there are several black Americans, right? There are actually black Americans going, oh wow, this will be amazing to have one of these cars, right? And then everybody's going, hey, I want one of those Chinese cars, right? Lots and lots and lots of a lot was like actually like black car enthusiasts, but then it started spreading, right? And so in the next day or less than 24 hours, right? In less than 24 hours, Elon Musk called for it's already 25% tariff on all the Chinese cars. It's already protectionist. It's not free trade. And then within less than 24 hours, there was a call to basically ban all Chinese cars with 100%. 100% tariff basically means like you're not, it's just like all we're gonna tax 100%. you will pay all the money that you were gonna spend on that car straight to America. So you might as well just not even do it, right? But this is because of fear, right? That it's fear of the loss of control that Elon Musk and his fellow billionaire white supremacist capitalist colonizers are going to lose their ability to dominate the earth. Anyway, so let's go. I think I made another little thread about this previously, so let's just go into that a bit. I haven't gotten into that. This is a random goth fashion tips for you. We now end this Lily Monster commercial break and move on. Oh, also Neofeud's on sale in case you haven't picked it up. Okay, where is that? I made a thread about this. Oh yeah, here it is. Yeah. The U.S. colonial cancer in Hawaii must be excised as it eats our land and people for billionaires and bases, but also because we need these world-beating Chinese EVs the U.S. strives to smother with 100% tariffs. And also importantly, the West only screeches free trade when they have a stranglehold, and they're really a bunch of losers, right? And on the Hawaii note, this is the United States in Hawaii. Thousands of Hawaiians have been made homeless by Lahaina fires and are still living on the street from these $8,000 rents by profit-hungry landlords supported by the corrupt U.S. government. This is a 19-year-old Lahaina resident, Kawhi Brown, and her partner survived the August wildfire and got housed in a hotel, only to get kicked out just before Christmas. They lived in their car for the next couple of months on the beach. Brown, and this was from a little bit ago, but this is still the case. There's still many homeless Hawaiians from the Lahaina fires. She's due with her baby any day now. Displaced Lahaina mother prepares for a baby's birth while living in a tent. And so the United States has been horrible for us, right, as Native Hawaiians, and for the Earth, obviously. And you know, and I'm going to get into the Hawaii topic, but you know, the U.S. is undergoing a colonial capitalist occupation in Hawaii, and that is actually going to cause us to not be able to access these world-class Chinese EVs that are also better performing and way cheaper and better for the planet, right? Like in terms of market competition, if you want a free market with free trade, then you should. I mean, you should. The United States and the West, the Europeans, and all of your friends, you simply get good. Like do what you always claim, right? The U.S. But this is why the U.S. and the West, they don't care about competition or free markets or any of this nonsense, right? If the U.S. and the West really believed in free markets and they really believed in competition benefiting consumers, then they would actually work hard to produce and figure out how to invest the trillions of dollars they have stored up in their banks, and they would figure out how to produce better products or produce some different product that they can sell to other people and that people want, right? But that's not what they do. That's not what they do. What they do is try to dominate the entire planet and then make the crappiest product that they can, kind of like capitalism. It's the worst possible system. And then try to say all the other ones were bad, but that's because you're controlling all the events on the earth under a colonial hegemonic system, right? And then when they control everything on the earth, then they make the crappiest products that keep them in power. They said that the crappiest thing that people will buy without revolting, right? It's kind of like the way that your internet works, right? It's the crappiest internet that you can get, short of people revolting, right? The food that you're paying the most for, the crappiest food. American food is 10 times more expensive, and it's 10 times less healthy than Chinese food, like in actual China. Like watch a Chinese TikTok or short form video of them going through their markets. They spend $2. You can spend $2 and buy like 3 days of food for like two people, right? $2 US, and the food is all like fresh vegetables, all colors of the rainbow in each dish, different dishes. In America, you can spend $2 on like deep fried, rat intestines. If you're lucky, you can buy like one gumball. You can buy like a H5N1 infected piece of winter mint chewing gum for $2, right? You can buy like 3 French fries from Genocide McDonald's, right, for $2. Like a hash brown is $3.50, right? So the West is not about making better products. The United States and Europeans and the Japanese, Japanese used to be about it, but then they kind of they dropped the ball since the 90s Toyotas. They're not making too many cars or games or anything. They're putting Japanese stamps on. They're doing what America does. They're putting Japanese stamps on things and then sending them to America because Americans won't buy Chinese things because the U.S. has forcefully indoctrinated them into xenophobia for attempts to maintain global hegemony. So it's not about free trade. It's not about free market. It's not about competition. Like, I was a Lego robotics teacher, and I liked the invention and friendly. They used to call it cooperation. Like, I believe that there are many scientists. There are many scientists dying to get out of the Western mind controlling matrix. There are many young people, right? That's why if you're autistic, they target you for removal from the earth, right? In fact, if you're in the Netherlands and you're autistic, you can be euthanized without your consent because autism will disallow you from integrating properly into society. That's what they actually said. But the thing is, like Greta Thunberg is just like, if you have difficulty dealing with nonsensical, incongruous, deeply unethical systems, right? Which the West asks you to participate in, right? And Greta's like, well, you say we're supposed to be saving the planet and we're supposed to do what's right for the earth, and why are all of our leaders here, and why are our systems here, and our governments and so many of our adults all complicit in the opposite of that, right? And many scientists are these people on the spectrum a lot of times tend to get into science and tech and engineering because they make more sense. There's many reasons, but one of them is they make more sense. And in the West, the systems of government and politics and economics, they don't make any sense. They're nonsensical and they're immoral. They're basic. They're fundamentally they're putrid. They're disgusting. They don't make any sense, and so it's hard to even operate in that space, right? Only the neural assimilated, the person who is capable of compartmentalizing the cognitive dissonance of being in a so-called free country where you have the greatest police state and military and police suppression, right? Only people that are capable of balkanizing their own brains, right? Of like severing bits of their mind into sub compartments and understanding. Only people that are capable of mass internal conscious or unconscious duplicity and lying in their mind, right? And being able to trick others into believing what you're saying is the truth, and understanding that that's not a thing that everybody can or is capable or wants to do, right? The level of deceit and disinformation and the layers of lies, right, that is necessary to sustain Western liberal democracy, right? It's not. One of the difficulties is it's not very liberal in the sense of there's not much liberty here, and it's not democratic, right? And if you're like neurologically predisposed to not be able to do that or have a real struggle with that, which many neuroatypical people will have, right? Then you're just going to get frustrated with that, and you're going to tend to be people that are going to be moving to, and which is a lot of scientists, because the natural world doesn't lie, right? I mean, that's why that's part of one reason why many people get more are more. I mean, this has been said even by like even Einstein himself, and many other scientists said, I prefer the natural world because I can make sense of it and I can understand it, and it is complex and difficult, but it doesn't like lie to you. It can be tricky, like quantum mechanics is very difficult, but it doesn't intentionally deceive you, right? Weather patterns are difficult to predict, but the movement of oxygen and nitrogen atoms in Brownian motion and in meteorological formations, they're not gonna. The wind is not intentionally gonna move in another direction in order to convince you, right, that thermodynamics is wrong. Whereas in the human world and in the Western human world in particular, that's all they do is say things and manipulate you to trick you to believe that night is day and day is night, and that they're free, and the non-Western world is the unfree place, right? And that the non-Western world is the bad place, right? And the sick place, and that we're the place of health, even though we're the ones that spreading and have 330 biolabs to make catastrophic BSL-3 pathogens, right? So I do. It really sucks to be a scientist in the West. It does, because you can't do science. You can't really. If science is the search for truth, right? Then you will turn many rocks and hit your head against many large walls, trying to find it when it matters most. Unfortunately, and all truth will be suppressed if it is capable of. If science is there to improve the lives of people and the collective, right? Then any science that is actually useful and functional will be suppressed also. And that's why they killed the electric car. There's even movies about this. So and so in Hawaii, let's go back to Hawaii. I'm kind of spiraling around this topic. Let's go into Hawaii. So Hawaii had the world's highest literacy rate, 98%, the world's first universal healthcare system, near zero homelessness, and actual racial equality. Our renewable hydropowered cities mirrored China's world-class cars today. The European racist plutocracy was bested and went full Tonya Harding mode. Tonya Harding, if you don't know who that is, she was an ice skater, a figure skater in the 90s, an Olympic figure skater. Nancy Kerrigan was better than her, at her skating. And so Tonya Harding, rather than practicing harder, rather than just accepting that maybe she would not surpass Nancy Kerrigan, just participating in friendly competition. Like I said, as a Lego robotics instructor, right? Everyone was pushed to strive to be the best scientist and the best engineering and technologist and researcher they could be, right? Make the best robot you could. Learn how to program, everybody was learning was the most important thing, and using their skills, right? I taught it to K to 12 students, or Lego robotics was like K to 8th, right? And kids would research, whether they would research scientific topics like disaster prevention, learn about tsunamis. They would research all these topics. They would learn about electricity. They would learn about how we can make a world that is more functional and better for seniors, like making robots and designing new wheelchairs that better help disabled and elderly people. So, and everyone was pushed in the Lego robotics competitions to learn those things, but it was not like ruthless. You if you were unsportsmanlike and you like try to bribe someone, right? Try to the equivalent of sanctioning. If you had judges that were all from your school, if you're from the rich, this is the one they didn't really deal with, was if you're from the school of the wealthy white parents, like Punahou School, where Obama went to, and yeah, his grandma is a senior banker at a huge bank, even though he's half black. If you went to a wealthy, but the goal was kids who have more resources should uplift those who have less resources, or they should not seek to simply win the competition, and also they should not seek to lie about or to trick or to like, for example, like come and like try to or like mock the other side if they, oh look, your robot fell apart, right? Or try to sabotage the other's robot, or like quietly like put up a tri-full board when your rival team was trying to find their pieces for their robot, so that they misplaced, trying to sabotage and do treachery to win the science, tech, engineering, math, Lego robotics competitions. I mean, I'm talking about this because I was a robotics teacher. That was like completely antithetical to the rules, right, of the competitions, because it was about it was about trying to have kids actually invent better futures, become better technologists and researchers, make better products, make technology that would help the world, right? And so, which is, that's a thing that it's a positive thing. Now, some people will be like, well, we shouldn't have any technology and progress, blah, blah, blah. And that's a whole nother thing. And we have to balance like technological advancements, whether the technological advancements are industrialization, the steam engine, electricity itself, the internal combustion engine, technologies of internet. People like the internet is destroying all of our minds. The internal the industrialization is wrecked the planet, and like those are important discussions to be had that people were having in the steampunk era of the Arcanum of Steamworks and Magic Obscura centers on the humans and the dwarvens populations are moving technology, are inventing technology, making guns and rail and flintlock pistols and the electrical filament that powers lanterns. They're harvesting ores in order to make these more advanced steel contraptions, and these industrial engines and these new steam engines, and then the coal and then the fossil fuel gasoline engines. These are changing the world. And then the elven side is of magic and nature, and they're upset that the natural world is being consumed and damaged, and there are less flowers and trees in the world, and then there's less magic in the world, right? And this is part of the video game of steampunk, Arcana. All I wanted to do today was talk about this is a long roundabout spiraling way for me to talk about Steamworks and Magic Obscura Arcana, which I've been playing like a lot in the last week. I finished Fallout 2, so I'm out of post-apocalyptic 1990s Interplay, Obsidian, Interplay, Troika, Looking Glass Studios games, and I'm onto the steampunk games of the 90s and then early 90s. Anyways, so but in the game, like you the more magic you use, the more difficult technology doesn't work as well, right? The supernatural laws that govern magic and a lot of nature, when they are combined with the natural laws, like your gun will suddenly malfunction and blow up in your face if you've been using too much magic, because supernatural, more chaotic, governing systems will interfere with the natural laws of the combustion and the ignition of sulfur and saltpeter and charcoal. Chinese technology, I might add, stolen by the West through slavery. But anyways, which Chinese also banned slavery 2,000 years ago. West not so much. They've never banned it. In fact, they still have it in Libya and in the United States prisons, making your vegan and non-vegan Whole Foods cheese for 25 cents an hour. Anyways, so or free. So, but back to this. So, the magic. So the technology and nature does have to be the needs of the people and the advancements of technology and like irrational blind exuberance into technology is a problem as well. And that renewable technology is about trying to deal with that. Now, just having renewable technology doesn't solve that. Because it has to, there even renewable technology has some damaging consequences, like lithium and cobalt mining, and many people are boycotting many phones because of that. And even some people criticize the number of electric vehicles in the world, and like there's like those are like legitimate concerns that should come to the forefront and be discussed in a actual intellectually honest, empathic, human to human, worldwide discussion, not just middle class to upper middle class, Euroids to themselves. Debating which flavor of two racist capitalist colonialist parties is the correct one. The Democrat pretend we're good people party, and the Republican we're bad and we don't give a shit party. That's what passes for Western intellectual discourse for forever. Not recently or in the past, but that's it. Which is to say, not discourse. That is just this is like play fighting. This is like two top-hatted, monocled noble elites with their steam engines and $50,000 billion worth of black and brown and Asian labor stuck inside of a Van Gogh painting or a Picasso, right? White gloves slapping each other. That's Western actual debate. I say, good sir, I think I'll take. What did you do with my in our kingdom? You have to like solve all these missing paintings for like noble elite ladies and their husbands. They keep losing their paintings to thieves, and it's like, yeah, the paintings is what you do with 50,000 hours of African coal and diamond mining labor, and you stick it in a painting. That's what paintings are for. Anyways. As I said, there's a greater narrative outside of the steampunk world that it often gets left. One day I'm going to make a steampunk game where you play like the Hawaiian civilization that has to, and there's a symposium of the great advances in the new electric sciences and technology and writing and artistry, philosophy, astronomy, medical science, right? And then the Europeans come and they have like a broken filament. And the Chinese and the Hawaiians have like hydropowered cities, affordable, like the most advanced mass transit trolleys and trains. They have like Jules Verne trains while Jules Verne is writing about great vehicles. And then the Chinese come with like electric vehicles and BYD, and the Europeans are all like, wait, you have better stuff than us. I think we'll just shoot you all in the face and kneecap you. I think we won't actually try to make better products and compete and work harder. I think we'll just overthrow your country, right? We'll overthrow your country, or we'll like ban all your cars. We'll just like try to economically ban you, or we use military invasions, or we'll coup you, right? That's what the U.S. did in Hawaii. Rather the U.S. and the same thing they did to China. That was the Opium Wars. Rather than make better, the Chinese didn't want to buy the low quality wool and the low quality textiles that the British were producing with American slave labor, American slave picked cotton on stolen indigenous land that the British were adding the finishing touches onto in their British Dickensian genocide factories. The average life expectancy of a London factory worker was 16 years old. That's the age that they would die, right? And even with all of this exploitation and misuse of resources and horrible treatment of people, inequality, racist, you name it, right? The Chinese wouldn't buy their products because they were simply not that good. Rather than compete with the Chinese, make better products, the British and the Westerners, France, they all compete. They all participated. They went in and shot 50,000 Chinese people, and they said, "You're gonna take our crap, and you're gonna take opium. In fact, here, have a bunch of heroin, and we're gonna steal all your silk and tea and copper and everything you have." And in Hawaii, they said, "You are doing better than us. What we're gonna do is we're gonna crush your country. We're gonna forcibly remove your universal healthcare system. We're gonna destroy. We're gonna take all of your electric lights. We're gonna take your hydropowered electric lights, your mass transit. We're gonna pave over all of your train tracks. We're gonna deindustrialize your entire society. We're gonna banish your universal healthcare system by forcefully defunding it. We're gonna ruin all of your schools. We're gonna rip it all down, and we're gonna make a slave pineapple plantation, and everyone will eat pineapple pizza. And all of the Filipino and Hawaiian slaves, you guys can all dance fake plastic hula for $6 an hour for wealthy white tourists in Waikiki." Right? So what the U.S. did to Hawaii is the same thing that it did to China historically and today, right? Rather than get better, make better products. Right? Rather than do friendly competition to do better science and help each other to if you there's another thing, right? Is like if you are doing poorly in a robotics competition, right? If you're doing poorly in the Lego robotics competition, right? As friendly cooperation, the teams that are doing better are required to help the other team. Let's say like you have a very well resourced, like Punahou, again, Obama school, right? It's $30,000 a year to go there. I taught for a bit at that school. They had Mayo Clinics, the Mayo Clinic doctors, the best. It's not the best, but it's like the most prestigious American medical institutions in the world were tutoring their kids on brand new like nanotech insulin deployment devices for their research products. They had NASA scientists, right? They had Elon Musk show up, like big tech Silicon Valley people would show up to Obama, the wealthy prestigious school in Hawaii, which is mostly white rich people, kids go there. And so but in the Lego robotics competition, you are expected, no matter what your resources, right, you are expected to help teams that were performing poor. So the team said, "I don't know how to program my robot," and then I'm getting stuck. I forget where to put my semicolon programming my robot, or I don't remember how to make this this ultrasound sensor work. It's not my robot is not stopping when it comes up to this Lego tsunami wave, and it's supposed to or it's coming up to this this earthquake collapsed building. It's supposed to stop and then do a search to try to find the little Lego mans inside. Because those are the kind of things that you would do. And so the more resourced, better performing team was expected to help and go like, well, let me show you some tips about how to program, and here's where you missed the semicolon, right? That was like part of the thing. That's actually what China does. They'll go to poorer countries or less empowered countries like Venezuela or Cuba, or they'll go to African countries and they'll say, "You are not doing that well. Let me help you. Let me help you improve yourself," right? Through non-debt trap, actually mass forgiven loans that leave infrastructure, again with the trains, right? Trains, rail, roads, hospitals, ports, everything you need. Let me help you get better at what you are lacking in, so that you can make not so that we can just keep you. Because the other thing, what the West will do is they'll pretend to help, but what they're doing is they want you to be subservient and controlled, like a Native American reservation, right? Everything you have has to come through America so that they can cut it off if you ever try to resist them, right? And that's not helping. That is keeping someone chained up in your basement. Whereas the Chinese don't chain people up in their basement. What they do is they go to Africa and they go to Asia and they go to Latin America and they say, "Let me help you be the best African people that you can be." Right? Let me give you the resources that you don't have, that you need to develop yourself, so that you can develop your own economy, your own industry, your own technology. And then as you develop, then we'll trade with you. Right? And that's the spirit of actual invention and technology. That was the best parts of the 1800s, right? That's and development was, and then exchanging those ideas in universities. I mean, to the extent that they function, right? And then people started, what happened was people started exchanging too many Marxism and too many feminism ideas, like too many Wollstonecrafts and too many Marxes and too many interesting ideas started coming about. They said, shut this whole thing down. We're going back to the dark ages, and now it's the 20th century. We're all going to blow each other up in 2 world wars, and that's basically. and then Oppenheimer and a few scientists were like, maybe communism is good actually. No, it's not. McCarthy era. Everybody shut up and go back to work. And we have to, every time people get too educated in the West, what they have to do is they have to revamp the disinformation system. They have to wipe out all of the actual useful good technologies like socialism, right? Which is Marxism, which is just a critique and analysis of Western economic and political systems, right? Anytime they start having too many actual benefit, like the electric car, things start actually benefiting the world, they get in the way of the powerful, then they have to wipe out all of that. An entire generation and all of the technology and science that's coming out has to be wiped out, right? In the McCarthy era is, people are learning that the capitalism is the worst thing ever, and it's been in existence for a long, long time, and in fact that it's destroying the world. Okay, well, everybody shut the hell up and get back in line. Stop learning. Get stupid again. Don't learn about that. And America's the best place ever. And the West is the best place ever. And if you don't join us, we're a free country. And if you're free to not join us, but if you don't join us, we'll kill you all and take everything you have. And that's awesome. Right? I mean, but so like, there has historically been multiple times where there was like potential for great change and positive change. And then what the West does is and its rulers do is they just crush it. They just crush it all. And it's very unfortunate, I mean, that's the point of this video. It's like there are many points where if the United States had simply learned from the Hawaiian system, right? If they had simply used our, socialist, anti-imperialist, technological development, state-owned enterprises of those things that can be most easily and naturally distributed by the government, like the electricity, which was it was Hawaiian nationalized non-capitalist electrical system, right? It was the Hawaiian Kingdom's electrical system, and that electricity was free or near free to everybody. And it was in fact the U.S. capitalists that they were the main overthrowers of the Hawaiian great progress, because they wanted to make tons of money, and there were too many brown people showing them up. Literally, there were too many what they would call N-words. Many of the white people in Hawaii, they were American. They were American white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. They were Calvinists, and then a lot more of them came in after the Civil War. They were people who wanted to see black and brown people back in the plantation, and they were upset that they had lost the Civil War. And they came to Hawaii thinking they could start another, black slavery, antebellum South, our great Confederacy, right? That's some of them, right? But even if they weren't Confederates, they were all racist. And they couldn't, the Europeans also, the British, the French, the Spanish, they couldn't stand seeing a progressive, successful, socialist Hawaiian country that had more literacy than them, had better technology than them. They were all well-spoken. They were world-class diplomats, impressing. All of their white noble ladies were leaving their douchebag lords and dukes' husbands and going with these Hawaiian guys that were showing up better dressed than them, by the way. They had better swag than them. And that's why Bridgerton works, right? And that new Interview with the Vampire, or you have these 1800s black and brown people just like eating it up. But I mean, that actually was the case. And because the Europeans were being bested in every possible domain, when there was equal competition, equal ability for people to be to learn and to grow and to be the best that they could be, and when everyone actually was producing science and engineering and technology and agricultural products and writings and art, when it was a fair competition, the European colonial capitalist system lost, and it always has. And then they get mad, and then they go on a bloodletting spree. They go on a massacre spree, right? And that's what they did. Sometimes it's shooting, sometimes it's just militarily aggressing and crushing, and then re-enslavement spree, because their system, their colonial capitalist racist system, is just bad. It's morally bad, and it's inefficient, and it's incompetent. It's everything bad. But they cannot stand. But if you want to have a minority of people controlling the world, you cannot. That's the thing. The reason why it's bad. There's a very, very basic, simple to understand reason why it doesn't function. If you believe that if you want to have a tiny minority of people controlling 99% of the population in a feudalist system, in a capitalist, economically feudalist and dynastically, in a globally in a colonial system, 99% of the planet being controlled by 1% of the country to country wise. If you believe in that system, and you want to have that system, right? You cannot allow the masses of the population to maximize their potential, because if the masses of the population, right, in a feudal world, in a capitalist world, in a modern so-called rules-based order, if everybody gets highly educated, right, they will realize the inequity and the unnecessariness, and they will get frustrated. Even they will just get frustrated at the lies they're being told to maintain that system, right? Like I talked about with the autistic neurodivergent radical effect, right? They all get radicalized against their inefficient, nonsensical Western system because they realize it's nonsensical and lie-filled. So people are not going to learn enough to become great technologists like in Hawaii. They are not going. They're good if they're going to be. You have to pay a lot of people to keep beating down and do peasant massacres, slave massacres, and worker beatings, right? And then sometimes worker massacres, like that's what happened in that's what May Day was about. And then you have to suppress the knowledge of May Day, right? And remove it as a holiday and make it so the Western unjust, racist capitalist colonial system is simply not a good system because most of the energy of the society has to be geared into police. That's why you have the biggest police state in the United States. Has to be geared into the military. That's why you have the biggest military expenditure. Like literally, they're going. The Chinese are going, hey, you guys, if you stop spending, like the giant bulk of your budget on these gigantic, inefficient military bases, maybe you could compete with us. I mean, you're literally seeing that on the global scale right now. If you stop spending money trying to beat down people with the U.S. empire's military bases and shooting missiles at people, invading and bombing and blowing up Palestinians, if you just could stop trying to brutalize people so that a tiny minority of people can control the planet, you could join in the Lego robotics cooperation, science and technology and economic prosperity. Your people could focus on making better electric cars, making better solar panels, making better agricultural products, making better art, making better computer products. And then you could make something, then you could sell that in a trade with the rest of the world in like a peaceful win-win cooperative way, right? But the West doesn't want to do that. It doesn't know how to do that. Right? And the people inside the people inside of the West are like, I kind of don't know what the hell. I hate China. I don't exactly, like, why do I hate China exactly? I'm not sure. Like, you can even see, like, there's that redneck TikTok of that, like, is this some, like, country hillbilly from, like, Mississippi, like, in the outskirts of the, in the rural area. And he's like, wait, they want to ban a TikTok? What do I care what the Chinese government, sees my information? I'm more worried about the U.S. government seeing my information. Like, what did the U.S. government even do? All right, people are like just like confused, right? But you see, like, but when people get confused like that, then you need universities, then you need celebrities. The Western system is so inefficient because, number one, people are not reaching their maximum educational potential because you have to suppress education. And number two, everyone is involved in diseducation, marketing, media, Again, the celebrity culture, all these things, right? The complicit university system. They're not able to teach what they actually want to teach, unless you're like a guerrilla rogue professor, which is like so many of the young ones nowadays. But they're not really doing education, right? You're doing paper farming. You're doing mass, like you're doing mass, colonial capitalist cog manufacturing, right? And then you have to spend the bulk of the money on military and on violence, because when people find out how horrible their treatment is, right? Whether it's in a Middle Eastern country, it's in Africa, it's in Asia. When the people figure out how horrible the treatment is, right? Black people in the ghetto, poor people, right? They're gonna rise up, striking workers, right? When they rise up, because they're like, what? Why am I being treated this way? And now they've got just enough education to figure out that they can rise up. You have to beat them back down with the police and the military, right? So, and every cop, every military personnel, everyone who is working on a Lockheed missile, every engineer that's making a Boeing military weapon of death, everyone who is spending time, every member of the Air Force, like Aaron Bushnell, going on the internet, right, and using sock puppet accounts to try to crush any leftist discourse in Reddit or any online space. Everyone is going on a Twitter with all these bots that is being paid to spew lies about China or Russia or capitalism's awesome, or just to try to disrupt. That's what a lot of the West is involved in. It's just or just do useless marketing that's not about making better products, right? It's nothing. China doesn't waste money on marketing. They waste very little money on marketing. They work on better products, and then the products speak for themselves. Marketing. It's like like marketing is what made everybody get cancer, because it said smoking is good for your health, right? It's not really market. It's not just marketing. That is intentional, deceitful That's just lie-filled propaganda in an attempt to kneecap. It's a kind of Tanya. A lot of it is just Tanya Harding kneecapping a competition. I mean, obviously people have to know what you make, but the amount of money that is spent, that is wasted going into disinformation, which is a lot of what the marketing is, and like scams and all that kind of stuff. That is wasted resources of your human population that could have gone. Those marketers could have been researching a better solar panel, right? Those scam artists that are reduced to scamming, they could have been, I don't know, working on and engineering a better car. But instead of doing that, they're wasting all of their resources and their talent, or they're like starving, so they can't even think straight because they're starving to death. You're like young PhDs in nanotech, and they're like starving to death because they have to fucking, right, flip burgers at McDonald's. They can't even afford the McDonald's burgers with their PhD, right? Most college students that have graduated don't even have a job in the degree that they're in the West, and if they do have a job in the field that they specialize in, if it's actually a productive job, they're underpaid. Right? So all of that is it is just massively inefficient. It is just massively inefficient. It gets shown up all the time. The Soviet Union showed them up. Hawaii showed the West up. China showed the West up. Cuba is showing the West up. But now it's the attempt to keep all of the rest of the world that is coming out from this horrible sordid history is falling apart. Thank goodness it's falling apart. I need to have I need one of these BYD electric cars. I don't want to be driving any more American broken car. I mean, the only cars I can barely drive and barely work anymore is like Japanese cars from the 90s. And like there's a limited supply of those, they're like running out of carburetors for the 1995 Toyota Corolla. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna need some new cars other than like 50-year-old freaking Japanese cars. Japan should get with the program too, and stop being a U.S. vassal and just like work with China and get good like Japan used to be. Japan is like they're not even making many games, and Japanese anime video game companies and car companies are all they've all become paper mills where they rubber stamp a Japanese symbol on a Chinese product. Like even the Japanese anime. Like some animes you think is made in Japan, like even like I can't think of I can't think of a specific one, but there's they hide it as much as they can. But a lot of the anime you think is being produced, like your Ghosts in the Shells and your One Pieces and your a lot of the animes, it's actually made in China. And then the CEOs and the administrators in Japan, they get to make money from it, but the actually Japanese animators are feeling very bad. They're feeling like this is a very bad situation for them economically. The Japanese should just be like, I'm sorry that we killed tens of millions of your people in our Japanese imperial era. I'm sorry that we went along with. I'm sorry that in the Shogun era, right, with the Shogun TV show, we were deeply Christianized, capitalist, colonialistized, and we went along with these duplicitous Europines and their need to suppress massive numbers of people to maintain the benefit of a tiny minority of people. And I'm sorry that we went into China and killed millions of people, and let's work together again. But the U.S. is trying to stop that from ever happening. So it does make it hard for them. But anyway, that's actually part of the story, which is that like Japan also was in between what they would be doing in the 1800s. And Hawaii almost cut a deal with Japan. The Hawaiian Kalakaua went and almost married the Hawaiian princess to the Japanese scion, the Japanese prince. And that could have began a future where the anti-imperial struggle in the Pacific, anti-colonial struggle in the Pacific, could have moved in a different direction. That did not come to pass, unfortunately. Things went in a different direction. The U.S. went through this. The U.S. massacred hundreds of thousands of Filipinos, overthrew Hawaii at the same time, and that was very unfortunate. But that was a sad end of the solar steampunk era. You know, the solar / steampunk era of the 1800s. We could all be driving Hawaiian the world could have been filled with Hawaiian electric cars in the 1900s, and Hawaiian and Japanese and Chinese electric cars. The United States could have had socialism, and if the U.S. had figured out how to just copy the Hawaiian system, right, of a socialist system with universal healthcare, complete mass literacy, you have to deal with the racism. That was a big problem. The U.S. didn't know how to deal with that, and you had universal housing, universal healthcare, universal electricity, all basic needs met. And then everybody just, there were small cooperatives, non-capitalist businesses that made up all of the those things which the central government couldn't easily handle, right? Like agriculture and invention and that kind of stuff. So the rail system was nationalized. If the U.S. had copied the Hawaiian system, you would be in a great place today. You might have been able to, you might not have the power. People would have had high-speed electric rail in the 1940s. Like there's many things could have been much better for the world, but that's not the direction the world went. Right now, the world is starting to get to an anti-colonial, anti-imperial block with the multipolar world. It's taken till the 2020s. So we're 130 years late. And so one way to look at the world now is, the world now is 130 years behind and is nearing ecological and pandemic and global war collapse, right? Because the U.S. failed to become actually equal, actually non-racist, actually caring for the general welfare, actually just society. If the U.S. became what it claims to be, a democratic, just, equal, human rights respecting society, then you wouldn't have the problems you have. But that's not what we have. I mean, in the 30s, it tried. They had a big uprisings with the socialist and communist parties. It tried, and then FDR saved capitalism. We as Hawaiians, we hope for the success of the Americans to establish a truly democratic, just, and mutually beneficial, cooperative, technologically advanced civilization. We hope. And we cheer for the United States to achieve what they have. We hope for the Europeans to achieve what they have claimed to be, enlightened, civilized, just, equal societies. They currently still continue to fail at that, and instead resort to going along with the U.S. attempt to suppress the Chinese electric cars. Now, of course, in Europe there is obviously there are people who disagree with this, and they would like to. Hungary recently, right? You see that? There was a Hungary and China. Xi Jinping and Hungary had a meeting, all-weather partnership. You hear a lot about Hungary has been called frequently authoritarian, tyrannical, genocidal police state. I hear this all the time. I mean, I'm sure Hungary has lots of problems, right? But when the BBC, CNN, the New York Times, the DE News, France 24, when they all call you authoritarian police state, you know that you're doing something right. Simultaneously, very loudly. So Hungary might be turning the page on that. But anyways, okay. So it's now 12:58. Let me go more through this thread though. So Hawaii had the world's highest literacy rate. I already did that. I've been showing this for a long time. I know. Okay. Since I haven't done this on the stream for a bit, let's just go through some of this. The U.S. banned Hawaiian language, overthrew our country, let us die in Maui fires, devastated universal health care, illegally occupies Hawaii to this day. My mom's hands were broken for speaking Hawaiian in school. And the U.S. is not a beacon, but a destroyer of independence. In case you didn't know that, this is Haunani K. Trask's speech. I recommend you go listen to it at some point. Haunani K. Trask was one of our great anti-colonial leaders in Hawaii, and she's a global inspiration for all people suffering under an imperialist system worldwide. When we get to the future part, yeah. So again, Hawaii had the world's highest literacy rate. We already showed that one. The U.S. invaded, destroyed the system, and banned our language and culture, turning us into a slave plantation. This is the USS Boston landing in Hawaii to overthrow our sovereign country with the world's highest literacy rate, etc. Right? This is the ship, the U.S. military approaching. This is the Iolani Palace. That is the overthrow of the system I've just been talking about. This is the Kauai petitions, where 95% of Hawaii signed a petition to not be annexed into the United States of America. Again, the United States accuses Russia all the time because Russia had referendums for annexation, similar in the Donbass region, right? The Donbass, Luhansk region, eastern Ukraine. And a lot of people said, well, these were rigged, these were fake, these are not real votes. Number one, the Russians have been, the Ukrainian, U.S.-backed Ukrainian fascists, Stepan Banderites that ran that government, they have been shelling for 8 years, since 2014. They have been bombing civilian areas, very similar to Israel, ISRAEL bombing Palestine, right? They have been bombing civilian areas, schools, apartments in the Donbass region for 8 years already, since the U.S.-backed coup with Victoria Nuland, who was in Biden's administration and left very recently because she screwed up Ukraine, basically. Her attempts to maintain hegemony were not doing so well, so she took the fall for that. She's probably going to get a good job somewhere. She's going to get a house in the Hamptons, I'm sure, and a retirement in the Cayman Islands. But Russia did offer a vote, whatever you think about it, that said, would you like to join or would you like to stay part of Ukraine? 95 to 98% of that region, because of they're largely Russian-speaking, Russian ethnic region, they said we would like to join. We would like to be annexed because this is very dangerous and horrible for us to be part of this place, right? So, and I mean, whether you think you can think, whatever you can like, well, Cyberspook guy, Russia's authoritarian dictatorship, horrible, imperialist. They're just evil. They're going to destroy the world. And I mean, what you can think. I mean, they have their own problems. But if you claim that, right, and you claim that you're democratic, your country is democratic. Now, I mean, any self-conscious, intellectually honest Westerner will understand that they don't have any democracies there. But in case you didn't know this, Hawaii was offered the same referendum, or it was no, that's not true. Hawaii was never offered this. We had to do our own vote about whether to become part of the United States. Okay, the United States never offered. Russia at least offered, right, Eastern Ukraine the option to become part of Russia, right, so that they would not be genocided, basically, and assaulted and attacked by these extremist, basically Nazis, right? I mean, now you could be like, well, we don't really. I'm sure some people are like, I'm not sure because I don't know what that will curtail. Many people are like, oh, I like being a Ukrainian, but people also looked at the immediate economic destruction, because the destruction also closed businesses. You can't run a business when you're being shelled, right? Like if you're in Rafah and you're being blown up, you don't have even if you're like, I don't particularly like that country. If you're being blown up in Gaza, you can't run your business properly. And if somebody says we will protect the areas that are being artillery shelled, right? Imagine if Egypt said, okay, Palestine, we will directly fight Israel, but you have to you become a part of us. You can keep your culture and etc. But you have to. I mean, Egypt is not in such a position. Obviously, they're not. That's not their politics. They're not going to do that. But they said we will militarily fight and push back the people that are bombing your children and killing you and sniping your little babies in hospitals that are starving you to death. But you have to. But will you agree to annexation? And this is a big hypothetical, right? Now, some people will say, I don't really want that. Some people, it's legitimate. Some people, I don't like getting bombed in my hospitals and in my schools and in my apartment buildings and starved to death with flower massacres. But I don't,